A bridge stands firm after 2,000 years, yet we cannot build its equal today. Ancient civilizations mastered materials science in ways our modern technology still cannot replicate. By the end of this exploration, you will understand how these forgotten builders achieved the impossible, forcing us to rewrite the history of human innovation. How did Roman concrete grow stronger in seawater for centuries? What secret formula allowed metal clamps to fuse with stone, creating bonds that defy earthquakes? The answers reveal a technological peak lost to time. What does it say about our own civilization when the past holds secrets we have yet to uncover? From the mist-shrouded peaks of the Andes to the sun-baked river valleys of the Roman Empire, these ancient builders faced the same fundamental challenge. They looked upon roaring rivers and deep ravines and saw not barriers but opportunities. In South America, the Inca crafted suspension bridges from woven mountain grasses, structures that swung high above lethal gorges, strong enough to support entire armies. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, Roman engineers were laying stone upon stone, creating arch bridges from a unique concrete that seemed to gain strength with every passing century. These were not simple footpaths. They were the superhighways of their day, vital arteries that pumped life into empires through trade, swift communication, and the movement of legions. The sheer diversity is staggering. Civilizations with no possible contact with one another, separated by oceans and continents, all arrived at the same brilliant conclusion. They developed sophisticated engineering to conquer geography itself. This global phenomenon points to a profound truth, a universal human drive to connect, to explore, and to master the environment. But this shared ambition also led to a fascinating divergence. Each culture used what their land provided. The Inca used resilient grasses. The Romans used volcanic ash and lime. The Chinese used iron chains. The materials were local, but the ingenuity was universal. This widespread brilliance forces a compelling question. What exactly did they know about their chosen materials that we are still struggling to comprehend today? The secret does not lie in the grand design of the arches or the cables, impressive as they are. The true magic, the lost knowledge, is hidden within the very stuff they built with. Roman concrete does not simply endure the sea, it thrives in it. While our modern structures crumble and crack under the constant assault of saltwater, ancient Roman piers and breakwaters have spent 2,000 years submerged, emerging harder and more resilient than the day they were poured. This is not passive survival, it is active strengthening, a feat our own material science cannot economically replicate. The secret was in their recipe, a mixture that seemed almost alchemical. They combined lime with a special volcanic ash called pozzolana, and then they did the unthinkable, they mixed it with seawater. This was not a mistake. That salt water triggered a slow, miraculous chemical reaction deep within the stone. Over decades and centuries, a rare mineral called aluminous tobamorite crystallizes within the concrete. Think of these crystals as a self-assembling repair crew on a microscopic scale. They weave through the material, filling the tiniest micro cracks as they form, constantly reinforcing the structure from within. Modern labs can create this mineral, but we cannot make it form naturally within the concrete over a long period, nor can we do it in a way that is practical for building a bridge or a skyscraper today. The Romans achieved this not with advanced chemistry, but with generations of perfected empirical knowledge. They knew it worked because they watched it work for centuries. This leaves us with a humbling realization. We can analyze their concrete with electron microscopes, but we have yet to truly recover the wisdom behind its creation. a wisdom written not in textbooks, but in the silent, unyielding stones themselves. Roman engineers did not have electron microscopes or chemical formulas. What they possessed was something arguably more powerful for its time, a relentless culture of practical problem solving. Their entire approach was built on a foundation of observation, repeated over centuries. They saw which buildings stood and which fell. They noticed that mixing lime with the volcanic ash from Pozzuoli created a mortar that set rock hard, even underwater. This was not a single eureka, a moment, but a slow, collective accumulation of wisdom, passed down from master builders to apprentices through generations of massive public works projects. This empirical method, learning by doing and refining by observing, was the engine of their innovation. It was a system built on scale and standardization. They established quarries and trade networks that stretched across the Mediterranean, all to ensure a consistent supply of specific, high-quality materials like that special pozzolana ash. Their famous arch was not just an aesthetic choice, it was a genius structural solution they perfected, a shape that efficiently channeled immense weight down into sturdy piers. This focus on functionality and longevity above all else meant every bridge, every aqueduct, was a long-term investment in the empire's skeleton. It was within this unique ecosystem of ambition, organization, and practical genius that a material like their self-healing concrete could even be conceived. The miracle of the concrete is not an isolated mystery. It is the ultimate expression of a society that engineered for the ages, proving that the most advanced technology is sometimes not a secret formula, but a way of thinking. While Roman concrete was a triumph of chemical mastery, another ancient technique achieved a similar miracle through metallurgical brilliance. In sacred spaces, from the sun-drenched stones of ancient Greece to the sprawling temple complexes of Cambodia, builders employed a different kind of magic to lock their monumental creations together. They used metal clamps. Imagine these not as simple brackets, but as molten staples poured directly into the stone itself. At places like the Temple of Jupiter at Baalbek, workers would first carve intricate, dovetail-shaped channels into the faces of colossal granite blocks. Then they would pour a white-hot, liquefied metal, often a special bronze or sometimes iron, directly into these prepared grooves. As the metal cooled and solidified, it didn't just sit in the stone, it physically fused with it, creating a single, unbreakable unit. This was more than just glue. It was a molecular handshake between metal and rock. The result was a bond so profound that these structures could withstand the relentless shifting of the earth for millennia. But the mystery only deepens when we look at the metal itself. Some of these ancient clamps show a baffling resistance to the rust and decay that plague modern iron. They have endured centuries of rain and humidity while barely showing a mark, a feat that suggests their creators possessed a secret formula, a lost method of alloying or a treatment process that gave the metal its supernatural endurance. We can analyze the composition, but we cannot replicate the precise craft, the specific pouring technique, or the exact knowledge that allowed for such perfect, long-lasting integration. Modern industry, for all its advanced metallurgy, has not successfully revived this art. Why did this ingenious technology, so vital to the stability of the ancient world's greatest monuments, simply vanish from our collective memory? The answer may lie not in a single forgotten blueprint, but in the quiet dissolution of an entire guild of master metalworkers, their hands-on knowledge lost to the passage of time. Think about the sheer coordination required for this ancient high-temperature operation. Artisans were not just builders, they were masters of a dangerous and precise dance with liquid metal. Before a single drop was poured, stone cutters had to carve those swallowtail channels with absolute perfection, a task demanding incredible skill and patience. Then came the furnace. They had to heat the metal, often a special bronze alloy, to an exact state of liquidity, a temperature known not by a digital readout but by the color of the glowing metal and the experience of the master metalworker. The real challenge began the moment the crucible was lifted. This molten material had to be carried, sometimes up towering scaffolding on a half-built temple, to reach the waiting stone. One misstep, one moment of hesitation, and the metal would cool just enough to become a useless, solid lump before it ever reached its destination. The pour itself was the final test. They had to fill those narrow, dovetail grooves in a single, continuous motion, ensuring the liquid metal flowed into every microscopic crevice and undercut within the stone. This was not a simple glue application. It was a form of microscopic lock-picking, creating a bond that was fundamentally mechanical. When the metal cooled and contracted, it gripped the stone from within its own customized pocket. The two materials, metal and rock, became a single, interlocked entity. This explains the legendary seismic resilience of these structures. During an earthquake, while ordinary mortar would crack and crumble, these clamp-bonded stones were allowed to shift and sway slightly, to dance with the Earth's movement, and then snap perfectly back into place once the tremors passed. Modern engineering can only marvel at this ancient solution, a technology that built flexibility into stone itself. But perhaps the most mystifying ancient material of all is one that seems to possess a life of its own. From the Great Wall of China to the pyramid temples of the Maya, certain mortars were not just durable, they were actively regenerative. These ancient mixtures had the uncanny ability to heal themselves. Imagine a tiny crack forming in a 2,000-year-old wall from the slow, relentless pressure of time. Instead of that fissure spreading and deepening, it simply seals itself shut, as if the stone has its own immune system. This is not science fiction, it is a documented property of ancient construction. The secret was not a complex synthetic polymer, but something far more elegant and organic. Chinese builders perfected a recipe that mixed slaked lime with sticky rice flour. In Mesoamerica, builders used the sap of local cacti. These were not simple glue recipes, they were sophisticated biochemical composites. The organic components acted as a slow-release mechanism. When a microscopic crack forms, it exposes the interior of the mortar to air and moisture. This triggers a delayed chemical reaction, causing dissolved calcium carbonate to recrystallize and fill the gap. It is a continuous, microscopic repair process that can continue for centuries. Modern science has only recently begun to grasp this principle, developing self-healing concrete that uses encapsulated bacteria or polymers. But our versions are complex, expensive, and difficult to scale for something as massive as a city wall or a pyramid. The ancient recipes achieved the same result with stunning simplicity, using locally available natural ingredients. This raises a profound question about our own approach to innovation. We often seek to conquer nature with synthetic solutions, yet these ancient builders achieved a kind of technological harmony with it. They did not fight against the environment, they used its own principles to create structures that could endure it. Their genius was in understanding that longevity was not about resisting change, but about building in the capacity for renewal. This principle of self-healing stone points to an even deeper mystery in the ancient builder's toolkit, a sophisticated use of organic chemistry. Long before the periodic table was conceived, these artisans were creating complex chemical composites by blending their mineral bases with ingredients from the local pantry. They stirred sticky rice soup into lime mortar in China, mixed fruit extracts with plasters in Mesoamerica, and even incorporated substances like animal blood into their mixes. They did not know the molecular reasons why these recipes worked, but through generations of trial and observation, they discovered the powerful effects. These organic compounds acted as natural plasticizers, making the mortar more pliable and easier to work with before it set. More importantly, they fundamentally changed the material's long-term performance. The starches and proteins formed resilient networks within the inorganic matrix, creating a hybrid material that was tougher, more water-resistant, and chemically stable. This was a form of biointegration, a seamless merging of the natural world with the built environment. It was sustainable technology in its purest form, using renewable, local resources to achieve performance that plain lime and sand alone could never provide. Modern material science is only now circling back to this ancient wisdom, developing advanced polymers and composites that mimic these very same principles. We are engineering what they discovered empirically. This holistic philosophy viewed a building not as an object separate from nature, but as an extension of it, a structure that could breathe, adapt, and even heal. The real question their work forces us to ask is not about their individual recipes, but about their entire worldview. Did they achieve such longevity because they saw themselves as partners with their environment, rather than its masters? Scattered across the windswept hills of Scotland and parts of Europe stand the enigmatic remains of ancient forts, but these are not just piles of tumbled stone. Their ramparts tell a story of incredible heat, for sections of these walls have been turned to glass. The very rock itself was melted and fused together in a process called vitrification. To transform granite into a glazed, ceramic-like substance requires a sustained temperature exceeding 1,100 degrees Celsius. This is not the heat of a simple bonfire or even a large timber blaze. It is the intense, focused heat of a foundry. So how did ancient peoples, presumably without advanced kiln technology, achieve such a feat? The debate is as heated as the fires that created these structures. One theory suggests the builders used a specific recipe of combustible materials, perhaps layering wood with coal or peat in a carefully engineered design around the walls to create a temporary, massive furnace effect. Others propose the use of chemical accelerants, naturally occurring minerals that could have been added to lower the melting point of the stone or intensify the fire's fury. Then there are interpretations that look beyond pure engineering, considering whether this vitrification was a deliberate, perhaps even ritualistic act. Could the melting of the fort have been a symbolic act of purification or a ceremonial closure, a way to spiritually seal the site by transforming its physical form? The melted stone itself refuses to give up its secret. Modern experiments have struggled to replicate the effect on such a grand scale, using only the tools and materials available in that era. This leaves us with a landscape of silent, glass-strewn ruins that challenge our understanding of ancient capabilities. Were these the result of a forgotten high-temperature technology, or do they represent a profound cultural practice that we can no longer fully comprehend? The vitrified forts stand as a stark, molten question mark in the archaeological record. The scattered glass on these ancient ramparts presents a stark puzzle. Was this a deliberate act of engineering or the accidental scar of a long-forgotten conflict? The debate centers on a single, crucial question: purpose. If these walls were intentionally set ablaze to strengthen them, then we must confront a counterintuitive fact. Vitrified stone is often more brittle and prone to shattering under impact than its solid rock counterpart. This makes it a surprisingly poor choice for a defensive barrier meant to withstand siege engines and relentless assault. So why go through the immense effort? One compelling theory suggests the purpose was not purely physical but profoundly spiritual. The transformative fire could have been a ritual act, a way to magically fortify the walls, to purify the space, or to create a permanent, shining boundary between the community within and the chaos without. In this light, the vitrification was not about creating harder stone, but about imbuing the entire structure with a sacred, protective power. Alternatively, the uneven, patchy nature of the vitrification across different sites hints at a more chaotic origin. Perhaps these are the remnants of catastrophic fires, ignited during violent attacks where stockpiled timber and other fuels burned with such ferocity that they literally melted the stone foundations. This explanation, however, struggles to account for the incredible, sustained heat required, a heat that a simple plundering torch might not achieve. The truth may lie in a forgotten middle ground, a specialized pyrotechnical knowledge that was neither purely practical nor entirely ceremonial. Perhaps the builders knew that a specific type of fire, applied in a certain way, could create a fused, impenetrable surface that repelled climbers or sealed the wall against the elements. The very ambiguity forces us to expand our definition of ancient technology. For these Iron Age societies, the line between a sturdy wall and a sacred one may have been indistinguishable. Their engineering was not just about physics, it was about meaning. To understand the vitrified fort is to understand a world where strength was measured not only in resistance to force, but in the power of symbolic permanence. The same principles of material mastery that built unshakable walls also forged legendary blades. Damascus steel is a name that echoes through history, synonymous with an almost mythical sharpness and strength. While its fame rests on the swords that could reportedly slice a silk scarf in midair, the true genius of this metal likely extended far beyond the battlefield. Imagine the tools needed to carve the intricate stonework of a temple or to shape the massive beams for a royal hall. The same steel that made an unstoppable sword would have created chisels and adzes of incredible durability, tools that could hold an edge through days of punishing work. This was not ordinary iron. It began as Wootz steel, a unique type of high-carbon ingot produced in ancient India. The transformation from this raw lump into a blade with its signature flowing, watery pattern was an alchemical dance of fire and hammer. The smith would heat the steel to a precise, glowing temperature, then fold and forge weld it again and again. This thermal cycling was not random pounding. It was a carefully controlled process that created an internal architecture of unimaginable complexity. Within the steel, nanostructures of carbon carbides formed, microscopic reinforcements that gave the metal its legendary combination of a razor-sharp edge and a flexible, shatter-resistant spine. The secret died with the master smiths of the 18th century. Modern scientists can peer into these ancient blades with electron microscopes and see the beautiful, intricate patterns of the carbides, but they cannot bring the original process back to life. The loss was twofold. First, the specific source of the iron ore, with its unique cocktail of trace impurities like vanadium, vanished from knowledge. These minute elements acted as catalysts in the crystalline growth, and without them, the recipe will never taste quite the same. Second, and perhaps more profoundly, we lost the smith's intuitive art. The craftsman did not have a thermometer or a timer. He judged the metal's readiness by the color of its glow in a charcoal fire, and he felt the rhythm of the hammer strikes in his bones. This was knowledge written in muscle memory and keen observation, a language that was never translated into a written manual. We possess the analysis, but we are missing the ancestral wisdom, the guarded craft that turned raw ore into a material that modern industry still views with a sense of wonder. That intuitive understanding of the metal was a language spoken only in the forge, A master smith did not need a digital readout to know the exact temperature of his steel. He saw it in the subtle gradient of orange shifting into a specific, incandescent yellow. He did not require an acoustic sensor to gauge the metal's internal integrity. He heard it in the clear, ringing tone of his hammer strike, a sound that told him if the crystalline structure was aligning perfectly or if a hidden flaw lay within. His knowledge was not written in a manual but encoded in his senses, a deep, tactile conversation between the craftsman and his material. This allowed him to perform what we might call microscopic engineering with nothing but fire, hammer, and anvil. He was manually creating and aligning those incredibly hard carbon nanotubes and carbide nanowires within the steel, guiding the metal's inner architecture through a dance of heat and pressure that he felt in his very bones. Our modern, precision-controlled furnaces can replicate a single temperature with perfect accuracy, but they lack the dynamic, responsive feedback of a human master adjusting the process moment by moment. This is the essence of tacit knowledge, the unspoken, experience-based skill that is incredibly difficult to document or transfer. It is the difference between reading sheet music and feeling the rhythm of a jazz improvisation. The tragedy is that this kind of wisdom does not disappear with a single lost blueprint. It vanishes quietly with the last practitioner, the final apprentice who never quite learned to hear the song the hot metal sings. We are left with the breathtaking artifacts, the self-healing concrete, and the patterned steel blades, as silent monuments to entire libraries of human understanding that have simply closed their doors forever. The debate over ancient materials takes its most dramatic turn when we look toward the Giza Plateau. The sheer scale of the Great Pyramid defies belief, with its 2,300,000 stone blocks fitting together with a precision that still baffles master stonemasons. A controversial theory proposes a radical solution to this ancient puzzle, suggesting that these massive blocks are not purely quarried limestone at all, but a sophisticated form of man-made stone. This is the Geopolymer theory, the idea that the pyramid builders possessed the knowledge to create a kind of liquid rock. Imagine a process where workers crushed softer, local limestone into a powder. They would then mix this powder with an alkali-rich activator, perhaps derived from natron or plant ashes, and water. The resulting slurry would have been a thick, concrete-like paste that could be poured into wooden molds right on the construction site. This single innovation would shatter our entire understanding of the construction timeline. Instead of teams of laborers hauling impossibly heavy blocks up ramps, the process becomes one of casting the pyramid in place, layer by layer. The evidence cited by proponents is subtle but compelling. Microscopic analysis has revealed the presence of organic fibers and tiny air bubbles trapped within the stone, features you would expect in a cast material but not typically in a naturally formed sedimentary rock. The incredible consistency from one block to the next, and the way they lock together with such perfect seams, could be explained by this reagglomeration process. It would be the ultimate expression of material mastery, turning simple powder and water into the most enduring monuments on Earth. Yet the theory remains fiercely debated. The central challenge is one of scale and quality. Modern chemists have struggled to reproduce a geopolymer of such immense size and flawless quality, using only the materials and technology available 4,500 years ago. The process would require a level of chemical control and a volume of production that seems staggering for the Bronze Age. Whether the theory is ultimately proven true or not, it forces a vital question. Are we underestimating the chemical ingenuity of our ancestors because we are looking for evidence of tools and ramps instead of evidence of vats and chemical knowledge? The silent stones of the pyramid may not just be carved but cast, holding a recipe for artificial stone that we are still trying to decipher. moving a 1,000-ton stone is a feat that defies modern heavy machinery. At sites like Baalbek, we find individual blocks that dwarf anything our contemporary cranes can lift, stones so massive their very presence seems to mock our assumptions about ancient capability. The mystery is twofold. First, the creation of a supermaterial, and second, the superhuman effort of putting it in place. How do you transport a weight equal to 200 elephants across miles of rugged terrain and then hoist it perfectly into position 50 feet in the air using only wood, rope, and human muscle? The theories are as ingenious as the structures themselves. For moving, it was likely a ballet of coordination. Workers may have placed the colossal block on a massive wooden sledge, then slid this sledge over a track of lubricated wooden rollers. Teams of hundreds pulling on precisely woven ropes would provide the motive force. To reduce friction, water boys might have run ahead, pouring water onto the wooden track, creating a slick, muddy surface that turned a near-impossible drag into a manageable, albeit Herculean, pull. The true test came at the construction site itself. Raising these stones required a terrifyingly elegant understanding of leverage and counterweights. Imagine a system of earthen ramps, great levers made from entire tree trunks, and baskets filled with stones acting as counterbalances. Workers would slowly, incrementally tip and pivot the block, lifting it centimeter by centimeter, perhaps using a crib of logs to hold it in place as they built the support beneath it. This was not brute force, it was physics orchestrated on a grand scale. The project management required to feed, house, and direct thousands of workers for years on a single project is a lost art of logistics. The precision they achieved with such simple tools speaks of a deep, intuitive mastery of mechanics, a collective intelligence that could visualize the entire process from quarry to final placement. This logistical genius is the silent partner to the material science, a symphony of human effort and intellect that we can scarcely comprehend today. High in the Andes, the stone walls of the Inca whisper a different kind of secret, one not of chemistry but of geometry. Their iconic polygonal masonry presents a puzzle of perfect chaos, where massive, irregular blocks fit together like a three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle carved from solid granite. The seams are so tight, so impossibly precise, that even a razor blade cannot find purchase between them. This was not a random pile of rocks. It was a masterclass in structural engineering, achieved without iron chisels, without mortar, and without the wheel. The method for creating such flawless, interlocking joins remains one of history's most captivating mysteries. One prevailing theory suggests a process of astonishing patience and simple physics. Imagine a team of workers carefully lowering a multi-ton stone onto its neighbor. Between them would be a layer of wet, abrasive sand. They would then rock the massive block back and forth, again and again, letting the gritty slurry slowly grind the two surfaces into a perfect custom fit. This was not a one-time event. Each stone was individually tailored to its specific place in the wall, a slow, iterative dance of lowering, grinding, checking, and lifting again. The result was not a rigid, monolithic structure, but a dynamic, flexible assembly. During an earthquake, while a solid wall would crack under the strain, an Inca wall was designed to dance. The interlocking stones would shift and sway with the seismic waves, settling back into their perfect alignment once the tremors passed. Modern engineers have a name for this brilliant principle: modular displacement. The Inca did not need the term, they simply built the principle into the very fabric of their cities. This was a technology of time and patience, where the journey of placing a single stone was as important as the design of the wall itself. It forces us to reconsider our own definitions of efficiency. In a world obsessed with speed, the enduring legacy of these walls stands as a testament to the power of meticulous, deliberate craft. The ground shakes, but the ancient temple merely sways, dancing with the earthquake instead of fighting it. This is the genius of seismic resilience, a principle mastered by builders long before the science of dynamics had a name. In Japan, towering wooden pagodas have weathered violent tremors for over 1,000 years. Their secret lies not in rigid reinforcement, but in a flexible central pillar called a shinbashira. This massive column hangs like a pendulum from the top of the structure, loosely connected to the surrounding floors. When the earth moves, the pagoda's individual levels sway independently, their energy dissipating as they slide against one another. The entire building absorbs and neutralizes the shock, moving with a graceful, counterbalancing rhythm that prevents catastrophic failure. This is a form of mass damping, a concept modern engineers use in skyscrapers today. The builders arrived at this solution not through complex calculations, but through generations of observing which structures remained standing and which fell. They learned that flexibility was the key to longevity. The same principle is etched into the stone walls of the Inca. Their polygonal masonry creates a web of interlocking stones that can shift and settle during a tremor, then snap back into perfect alignment. These are not rigid monoliths, but dynamic systems designed to move. Modern seismic isolation systems, which place entire buildings on sliding bearings or flexible pads, are a high-tech echo of this ancient wisdom. We are now engineering what they understood empirically, that to withstand immense force, a structure must be allowed to yield. The real lesson from these ancient designs is one of deep observation and adaptation. These builders did not see themselves as conquerors of nature, but as partners with it. They watched how trees bent in the wind and how reeds swayed in a current, and they translated that organic resilience into their architecture. Their brilliance was in recognizing that true strength is not always about being unyielding, but about knowing how to move. The same genius that fortified stone against earthquakes also created colors that have defied the sun itself. On the walls of pharaohs' tombs and in the preserved villas of Pompeii, pigments glow with an intensity that modern paints cannot match. This was not mere decoration, it was high chemistry, a deliberate science of permanence designed to make art endure as long as the monuments it adorned. Consider Egyptian blue, the world's first synthetic pigment. Its creation was an alchemical recipe of sand, copper, and a specific alkali like natron, heated together in a furnace to a temperature exceeding 1,500 degrees Celsius. The result was a radiant, stable blue that has not faded in over 4,000 years. Modern analysis reveals its secret. The calcium-copper silicate crystals within the pigment are so structurally sound that they resist the degrading effects of light, moisture, and time. Even more astonishing, scientists have recently discovered that under certain lights, Egyptian blue emits a powerful near-infrared glow, a property that could revolutionize medical imaging and laser technology today. This ancient color holds secrets we are only now learning to read. The longevity of these palettes went beyond the pigment itself. The binders mattered just as much. Artists used mediums like beeswax, plant gums, or even egg, carefully selected to form a durable, flexible film that would not crack or yellow with age. This holistic approach, from the mined mineral to the final painted surface, created a complete system of color. A mural was not just a layer of paint on a wall, it was a composite material engineered for eternity. The vibrant ochres, deep greens, and brilliant blues were a testament to a culture's desire to project its identity and beliefs into a future they would never see. In their quest for beauty, they achieved a form of immortality, leaving behind a legacy written in a language of unfading light. These vibrant, unfading colors were not created by chemists working in isolated labs. They were born from a worldview that saw no boundary between the stars above and the stones below. For the ancient master builders, the creation of a durable pigment, a self-healing mortar, or an earthquake-resistant temple was not a narrow technical challenge. It was a single thread in a vast, interconnected tapestry of knowledge, weaving together astronomy, mathematics, and a deep spiritual understanding of the cosmos. The Great Pyramid's near-perfect alignment with true north was not just an architectural boast, it was a physical expression of a celestial order. The harmonic proportions found in Greek temples, ratios that please the human ear as much as the eye, suggest they saw geometry as a universal language spoken by gods, nature, and humankind. The ritualistic laying of a foundation stone or the specific timing of a construction project to coincide with a solstice was not mere superstition. It was a way of grounding a structure in the rhythm of the universe itself, infusing the physical material with a layer of metaphysical significance. This holistic approach may have been the very key to their most profound discoveries. A builder who sees the world as an interconnected whole is more likely to experiment with fruit sap in his plaster, or to notice how a specific star's position correlates with the best time to mix his mortar. He is open to insights that a purely utilitarian engineer, focused only on load-bearing capacity, might dismiss as irrelevant. This is where our modern compartmentalization of knowledge may be our greatest blind spot. We have brilliant physicists, chemists, and geologists, but they rarely speak the same language as historians of religion or experts in ancient mythology. We have separated science from spirit, and in doing so, we may have walled off entire corridors of understanding that the ancients walked freely. Their legacy challenges our very model of innovation. It suggests that the next great leap in material science might not come from a deeper dive into a single specialty, but from the courageous, interdisciplinary work of reconnecting fields we have kept apart for centuries. Deep within the humid embrace of the Mesoamerican rainforest, the Maya faced a material challenge as relentless as the seasons. Their grand pyramids and ornate temples stood under a canopy of downpours and clinging moisture, an environment that should have reduced their lime-based plasters to crumbling dust within decades. Yet, centuries later, intricate carvings of gods and rulers still cling to these walls, their details sharp and defiant. The Maya had engineered a solution, transforming simple lime stucco into a breathable, water-resistant shield. Their secret was not locked away in a laboratory, but growing all around them in the jungle. They perfected recipes that mixed slaked lime with organic additives, most notably the sap from certain local trees like the chucum or the geote. When added to the wet plaster, this sap worked a kind of magic. It acted as a natural water repellent, causing rain to bead up and roll off the surface instead of soaking in and eroding the delicate artwork beneath. Just as importantly, it gave the plaster a smoother, more plastic quality, making it easier for artisans to shape into the elaborate facades that told their stories. This was more than a recipe, it was a profound adaptation, a dialogue between culture and environment. The exact trees they used and the precise methods for harvesting and processing the sap are details that have been lost to the jungle. Modern attempts to recreate this stucco often fall short of its legendary longevity, unable to perfectly mimic the complex chemical interaction between the lime and the specific organic compounds. This was not a one-size-fits-all solution, it was a hyper-local innovation, a testament to a deep, generational knowledge of their specific world. The enduring art on these temples is a silent tribute to a science that understood a fundamental truth: to build for eternity, you must first learn to work with the very forces that seek to wear you away. Environmental pressure forged their greatest inventions. A civilization's survival depended on its ability to bend the local landscape to its will, not with brute force, but with an intimate understanding of the materials the earth provided. The Roman Empire, sprawling across Mediterranean coastlines, needed harbors and bridges that could resist the relentless sea. Their answer was not found in a lab, but in the volcanic hills of Pozzuoli, where a specific ash, when mixed with lime and seawater, created a concrete that thrived in the very environment that destroys our modern versions. This was not a choice, it was a necessity. High in the Andes, the constant threat of tremors demanded a different kind of resilience. The Inca response was to build walls that danced, using interlocking stonework that swayed with seismic waves, a direct architectural translation of their lived experience with a shifting earth. Each solution was a perfect, localized answer. The Maya, living under a canopy of torrential rain, developed plasters infused with tree sap to shield their art from the deluge, while in arid Egypt, the challenge of permanence under a blazing sun led to the creation of synthetic pigments that have outlasted empires. These builders did not have a global supply chain. They had a deep, generational knowledge of their immediate world. They knew which volcanic ash produced the strongest set, which tree sap repelled water most effectively, and which quarry yielded the stone that could be ground into a perfect fit. Their process was one of relentless, localized experimentation, a slow refinement of technique using only what was at hand. The result was a library of sustainable, hyper-efficient materials, each one a custom-tailored key for a specific environmental lock. This stands in stark contrast to our modern approach, where a single type of steel or concrete is often shipped across the globe to solve vastly different problems, from a frozen tundra to a humid rainforest. The ancient method whispers a crucial lesson to our age of globalization. True innovation is not always about creating a universal solution, but about listening deeply to the specific problem and having the wisdom to use what the local environment willingly offers. Yet the story of lost knowledge does not end in the distant past. In the early 20th century, a single man in Florida performed a feat that echoes the mysteries of the ancient world. Edward Leedskalnin, a Latvian immigrant of slight build, spent 28 years single-handedly building what is now known as Coral Castle. Using nothing but hand tools, he quarried, moved, and precisely carved over 1,100 tons of oolite limestone. The blocks themselves are colossal, some weighing more than a fully grown male elephant, and they are fitted together with seams so tight they reject even a blade. When asked how he managed this alone, he would only offer a cryptic smile, saying he had rediscovered the building secrets of the ancient pyramids. He spoke of understanding the laws of weight and leverage, but his methods remain completely unexplained. He worked mostly at night, shrouding his process in secrecy, and neighbors reported seeing him work with nothing more than a tripod of old telephone poles, some chains, and a collection of simple hand tools. The sheer physics of it defies belief. How could one man without modern machinery lift a 30-ton block into place? Speculation has run wild for decades. Did he uncover a principle of magnetic levitation, using the Earth's own magnetic field to neutralize weight? Was it some form of acoustic resonance, using specific sound frequencies to make the stone momentarily lighter? Or was it, as he claimed, a purely mechanical secret, a forgotten form of leverage so perfect it could multiply his strength 1,000-fold? Modern engineers and physicists have analyzed the site and come away baffled. While not ancient, Coral Castle stands as a powerful, modern monument to a profound and unsettling idea. The peak of material and construction knowledge is not a steady, upward climb. It can be discovered by a lone individual, and just as easily, it can vanish back into the shadows, leaving behind a silent, stone puzzle that challenges everything we assume about our own technological supremacy. These silent stones and forgotten formulas do more than just stand against time. They unsettle our deepest assumptions about history itself. We are taught a story of steady, linear advancement, where each generation builds upon the last in an unbroken march toward a more sophisticated future. Yet the evidence of a self-healing concrete or a stone that fits without mortar tells a different tale, one of peaks and valleys in human knowledge. It suggests that profound understanding can be achieved, celebrated, and then somehow, inexplicably, misplaced for 1,000 years. This realization carries a powerful psychological weight, a humbling reminder that our current technological summit is not the only one that has ever existed, and it may not be the last. This is why these ancient mysteries hold such a powerful grip on our imagination. They are not merely academic puzzles, they are existential provocations. They force us to question the very foundation of our progress and wonder what essential truths we might be overlooking today. This sense of wonder is a catalyst, sparking a global conversation that bridges the gap between the professional academic and the amateur enthusiast in their garage. A materials scientist inspired by Roman seawater concrete might spend years in a lab trying to replicate its crystalline structure. Meanwhile, a history buff, captivated by the mystery of Coral Castle, devises their own experiments with levers and counterweights. This shared curiosity drives the field forward, fueling new research in archaeology and pushing the boundaries of modern material science in unexpected directions. The legacy of these ancient masters, therefore, is not frozen in the past. It is a living, breathing inspiration, a perpetual challenge that ensures their genius continues to provoke, puzzle, and inspire generations to come. This fragility of human knowledge presents a profound irony. The stone and metal creations endure for millennia, while the wisdom of their making could be erased in a single generation. The greatest vulnerability was not in the materials themselves, but in the very systems used to transmit their secrets. For countless master builders, complex engineering principles and chemical recipes were not preserved in textbooks, but carried in the living memory of skilled artisans. This was a world of oral tradition, where a master craftsman would teach his apprentice through years of side-by-side work, demonstrating the precise color of hot metal, the exact feel of the perfect mortar mix, and the rhythmic chant used to coordinate a team lifting a multi-ton block. This knowledge was a symphony of sight, sound, and touch, an entire library of technique held in the minds and hands of a select few. When that chain was broken by a conflict, an outbreak of illness, or the simple failure to find a worthy apprentice, the library burned down without a single scroll being touched. The legendary Library of Alexandria symbolizes this catastrophic loss on a grand scale, but it was just one of countless repositories that vanished. Think of the workshop schools of Mesopotamia, the philosophical academies of Greece, the guild halls of medieval Europe, all serving as living centers of specialized knowledge. When these institutions were scattered by upheaval, their collected wisdom often evaporated into the air as fleeting as a spoken word. This creates a heartbreaking disconnect. We can stand before a 2,000-year-old bridge, running our hands over stones locked together by a forgotten metallurgical miracle, yet the voices of the people who understood that miracle are silent forever. The most enduring creations of humanity are often monuments to our most fragile asset, the unrecorded thought. Our most sophisticated laboratories are now interrogating these ancient stones. Armed with electron microscopes and molecular analyzers, scientists perform a kind of archaeological forensics, peering into the very heart of Roman concrete or the crystalline structure of Damascus steel. The goal is not merely to admire, but to reverse engineer, to extract the hidden recipe. This meticulous work has already borne fruit. The study of Roman maritime concrete, for instance, revealed the critical role of seawater in forming those self-healing aluminous tobamorite crystals. This insight is now inspiring the development of new, more resilient concrete blends for our own coastal defenses and seawalls, a direct technological inheritance from the ancient world. Yet for every breakthrough there is a stumbling block. The replication process often hits a wall of practical reality. We might understand the chemistry, but we cannot source the exact volcanic ash from a long-exhausted Italian quarry. We can see the nanostructures in a legendary blade, but we lack the specific iron ore with its unique, irreplaceable trace minerals. Even when the formula is theoretically cracked, the cost of production or the sheer energy required to mimic an ancient process can be prohibitively high for modern construction. This is where the divide between analysis and application becomes clear. We can deconstruct their genius with particle accelerators, but we struggle to reconstruct it in a cost-effective way. This scientific detective work is more than just technical mimicry. It is a profound conversation across centuries. It connects our computational power with their empirical wisdom, our analytical precision with their intuitive craft. The quest is not to prove we are smarter, but to become wise enough to learn from masters we will never meet. What we are building is a bridge of understanding, hoping that by decoding the secrets of their materials, we might rediscover something essential about our own capacity for lasting innovation. But our quest to unlock these secrets leads us to a profound ethical crossroads. The formulas we are trying to decipher through electron microscopes are not merely abandoned patents, they are the living cultural heritage of descendant communities. This raises a vital question: who truly holds the right to study, replicate, or potentially commercialize these lost arts? The answer requires a fundamental shift in perspective, moving from a model of extraction to one of collaboration. The most authentic understanding of these techniques resides not only in the silent stones, but in the oral histories, ancestral stories, and traditional practices of the people whose forebears created them. Engaging respectfully with indigenous knowledge holders is not a bureaucratic hurdle. It is the key to unlocking a deeper, more complete truth. This transforms the scientific quest from a solitary hunt for a secret into a shared journey of cultural reconciliation. It becomes an act of listening, of honoring traditional cultural rites, and ensuring that any rediscovery of these arts directly benefits and respects the communities from which they originated. When a modern engineer works alongside a community elder to understand an ancient water-resistant plaster, the result is more than just a new building material. It is a bridge of mutual respect built across time. This collaborative spirit ensures that the legacy of the ancient masters is not plundered for profit, but honored as a shared human inheritance, allowing their genius to inspire the future in a way that is both ethically sound and culturally enriching. From the self-healing mortars of China to the seismic walls of Peru, these creations are far more than just tales of lost technology. They are profound lessons in observation, a masterclass in how to watch the natural world and learn its secrets. They teach us about adaptation, about using what the local environment provides to solve hyper-local challenges with stunning elegance. And they reveal a deep, holistic understanding of the world, one where chemistry, spirituality, and community were not separate fields, but interconnected strands of the same rope used to lift civilization to incredible heights. This legacy stands as a humbling challenge to our own assumptions of superiority. We often believe our path of progress is the only one, a straight line leading ever upward. Yet these enduring stones whisper a different story, one of peaks and valleys in human knowledge, reminding us that a civilization's greatest achievements can be forgotten. They inspire us to look beyond our textbooks and laboratories for answers, to consider that the wisdom we seek might be found in the patient craft of a stonecutter or the intuitive knowledge of a master smith. As our electron microscopes probe these ancient materials, we are not just analyzing stone and metal. We are building a new kind of bridge, a bridge of understanding reaching back through the centuries to our ingenious ancestors. Let their silent, steadfast creations be a permanent call to never stop questioning, to never cease exploring, and to always marvel at the boundless and hidden capabilities of the human mind. These silent stones and forgotten formulas leave us with a final, compelling question. What ancient mystery captivates you the most? Do you believe our modern science will one day fully rediscover the arts of self-healing concrete or metal that fuses with stone? Or are some secrets, born from a different way of seeing the world, meant to remain forever in the past? The conversation does not end here. We are incredibly eager to hear your thoughts and personal theories in the comments below. This community thrives on shared curiosity, and we love reading every single one of your perspectives. If this journey into the depths of history's greatest puzzles resonated with you, please show your support by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Your engagement helps us continue creating these deep dives into the wonders of our past. Until our next exploration, keep questioning the world around you.